God bless you guys. This is Sean here from Faith Brings Change. I just want to come on here and I want to talk to you guys. I just want to talk to you fresh. If you're new to this whole 3 days of darkness thing, you may have heard of this before, guys. Pay attention to this because I'm going to read from you straight from the Bible, guys. And there's a sister brought this up to me because, and it's a fair thing to say. She said, how do I, this 3 days darkness thing, from what I've heard, she said it nicely. It's a Catholic thing, and I'm not Catholic, first off, and but you do see it, and I've never been one to be into those trendy things. I've always done the opposite of everything. I used to laugh at this 3 days of darkness, guys, but when I came out of my sin by memorizing the prayers, and please listen to this because I'm going to read you this, guys, because this is important. I was writing because you did this, and you did that, and you did the other, says the Lord. Therefore, I'm going to be sending this darkness. And I was like, wait, what am I writing? Because God had already told me after I came out of my sin, 2 months to start doing some judgments in about 4 months. And I was like, I already said that he was showing me he's going to do stuff as basically as a punishment, part of a judgment for not, walking in the ways of the Lord. And I was like, wait, I don't even believe in this 3 days of darkness stuff. I laugh at this stuff. God, you're going to have to show me. I mean, it made sense when I was writing, but I didn't actually think I was going to be writing that because, I'll cause your lamps to be put out. He says he'll take away their candlesticks, if they didn't repent. And I said, you're going to have to give me a sign, God, if this is really you. And about 5 days passed, guys. And I was cast into the belly of the well of Jonah in a dream. I fell down to 3 levels. I counted after I woke up that it was exactly the number 3. And I get cast in this belly of the well of Jonah. And I see a scroll handed to me. And I'm told to write, And I wake up and I realize that Jonah was cast in the belly of the well 3 days. And I never would have related that to 3 days of darkness, guys. But Yeshua said there'd be no sign given but the sign of the prophet Jonah, and that sign would be the end days, and he told me that was the sign of the Son of Man. Now, I did preach, and what I said at the end of my preaching, my 22 days of preaching, did not happen. What I said did not happen. And I was hard about that, and I was hard on myself, admitting that this was false, and this whole thing was false, but Yeshua did confront me that day, and he rebuked me first for having the fear. And he said, why are you distressed? I called you to do what I was burned out on that. And then he gave me a dream of showing a murderer break into my house. And I had compassion on him. And I was telling him Yeshua was going to come and judge him. And he didn't want to be judged. And he was crying. I said, well, Yeshua is merciful. And Yeshua would not come in the dream. And I've had this dream over and over for years. And I finally pieced it together, and I decided he would never come in the dream. He'd always never come. I'd always wake up. Yeshua was never coming to see what to do with this guy. I finally realized after that plot, I realized the reason why Yeshua wasn't coming because he was in me. And I had the ability to bestow the mercy of the Lord. And not just me, but all people who would walk in his holiness. They could stand in the gap like the prophets. They can turn back judgments. And I understood that, and I said Yeshua, as me, I pointed to me like he's inside of me. And all those people that were living in that house that looked like murderers, like that other guy that needed mercy, they all smiled at me, and I could see they were angels through their eyes. Even though they had dead looking bodies, they actually act, guys, when they give you dreams, guys, they actually act like they are really these characters. Sometimes when you're getting demons, believe it or not, when you're seeing what Satan's doing, angels are acting it out to show you so you can go warn people. Sometimes, very much of those times, guys. And I could see their smile straight through the dead body of what they were putting on like a suit to try to get that message to me. I could see a smile of an angel. They were taking on that body, and I realized what it meant. God wanted me to do these judgments, the whole thing of Jonah, to give the same thing that Jonah had, to give them more time. Because I said, under no certain terms, in 21 days when this prophecy is over, darkness shall descend. And it was no coincidence that I was going to be preaching from the 10th and the 22nd day of prophecy. I was told by Yeshua when I asked about the coronavirus months before that, what would happen of this. He brought up he said October 6th. This was in March of 2020, guys. October 6th, October 27th. And he said, and he mentioned a 3-year shaking also. And I said, and what is that date, October 6th, October 22nd? He said, you'll find out. After I'd come out of sin finally, and I was doing these judgments, I said, when do you want me to do these judgments? He reminded me of the dream, October 6th to 27th, like he told me. So he put together the date, guys. I didn't put together those numbers. So after I was cast into the belly of the well of Jonah, mind you, that dream of him telling me October 6th, October 27th, and talked about a 3-year shaking, I wasn't even trying to do judgments back then. I was just asking what's the deal with this coronavirus. All the way to May, March, April, May, about two months later, roughly later, I was cast in the belly of the well of Jonah. And then I woke up and he told me to preach on the 6th to the 27th. And I counted how many days I'd be preaching, 22 days. So 10/22, October 22. I went back and I looked up because he talked about doing the 3 days of darkness at the end of my preaching. Now I didn't know this whole Jonah thing, that he was going to turn back like Jonah, the judgment. Guys. But I preached for the 10th month for us. And on the 22nd day would have been my last day when he would have been sitting in darkness. And this is why I'm convinced it wasn't plopped. It wasn't a mistake. 10/22. I went back and I looked up 10/22 because the 3 days of darkness is supposed to come. I looked in Exodus. It says Moses lifted up his staff in Exodus 10:22, and he commanded darkness, and there was 3 days of darkness. I was shocked when I looked at that, guys. It was going to be on the 27th and 22 days of prophecy, 227. He said, pay attention to that 227. He said, I asked him, is it really going to happen on that, the 27th? He told me 11th of a court will be brought in on the 27th in a dream. I woke up and I'm terrible at math. I asked what 11th of a court was to Siri. That's what I asked her. And she said, get this, 0.00227. There's no way I could have got that on my own, guys. No way. I found scriptures having to do 27, like there was outer darkness on the cross in the 27th chapter of the book of Matthew, guys. There was outer darkness in that chapter, 3 hours. It's a prophetic sign. Think about it. Before he went into the ground to die 3 days, there was 3 hours of darkness. That was a sign of prophecy. I can read you this from the book of Amos. Remember when that darkness came, guys? On the cross, 12 o'clock, noon. The 6th hour to the 9th hour. Revelation 9, think about that, but look at this, guys. See if I can find this. Okay. Verse 7 of Amos, chapter 8. The Lord has sworn by the excellency of Jacob, surely I will never forget any of their works. Shall not the land tremble for this, and every one mourn that dwell therein? And he's talking to Israel who sinned. And it shall rise up wholly as a flood, and it shall be cast out and drowned as by the flood of Egypt. Think about that flood of Egypt that came and drowned those Egyptians during that time of Israel and everything. And it says in verse 9, think about that, Revelation 9. It shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord God, that I will cause the sun to go down at noon, and I will darken the earth in the clear day, and I will turn your feasts into mourning, and your songs into lamentation, and I will bring up sackcloth upon all loins, and baldness upon every head. You see that sackcloth those two witnesses are wearing, also in the book of Revelation. And I will make it as mourning of an only son. And remember that. Yeshua talked about the sign of the coming of the Son of Man. The whole world shall mourn as of for an only son. The sign of the Son of Man is the sign of the prophet Jonah. And I'll explain that in a second. And so it says, verse 9, it says, It shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord, that I will cause the sun to go down at noon. I will darken the earth in the clear day. And he references Egypt and the flood. And that's the time during the 3 days of darkness, guys. That's what he's referencing. The sun that went down at noon. And you see that on the cross proven. It went down at noon. The sun was darkened. I asked for proof of this. And about 2 days went by. Or I should say... asked for proof of that. That happened in May when I was cast in the belly of the well of Jonah in 2020. I could see the muscles breathing, everything. That's the most clearest vision I've ever seen, guys. The next month after that, in June, I still asked for a sign. How are you going to do this thing? How are you going to darken the earth? I didn't know how he was going to do it at that. Like, you're going to darken the earth with a cloud? Give me some kind of sign. You're going to darken the earth with some kind of cloud. I heard in the next month after that, he said, what do you call it? Sahara dust cloud. I kept ignoring it, guys. And I kept feeling like something tugged me when I would get in the shower and everything for about 2 days. And then 2 days later, there was a Sahara dust cloud that happened. And it happened in the month of June. And this month of June is important, guys, about what I'm going to say. And I'm going to read from this book of Revelation to show you where it is in Revelation. It was darkened. They also reported on that TV report that Sahara dust cloud, they said they've never seen it do it like that. And it reached the Caribbean on June 22nd. I didn't pay attention to June 22nd. I saw June and I said, wait, God. You're telling me this darkness is going to happen. You seem to give the indication that it's going to happen in October. You know, because remember, he's preaching to me, talking to me the way he talked to Jonah, to tell Jonah to go warn Nineveh. I was to go warn my people of what would happen in the world, as it were. And he did tell me under no certain terms. This had to feel real so I could preach, so we could get more time. And so June, and I'm thinking, so what does June have to do with October? Why June? You pick all the days to give me a sign of 3 days darkness in June. Why do you do that, God? And I'm still thinking this October thing's going to be on. And not only in that report, they reported seeing locusts in the sky. Remember I mentioned locusts, guys, and I'm like, what do these locusts have to do with the 3 days of darkness? What do they have to do? I know you're showing me something, God. They reported locusts and they laughed and they said, ha, all we need now is like the plagues of Egypt. Or they said something like that in the TV report when they reported the Sahara dust cloud and that. And I was like, whoa, God is telling me something. And I was like, wait, wasn't there darkness? And because God's Spirit was leading me gradually, wasn't there darkness and locusts all at the same time in the book of Revelation? And I looked, and I'll read it to you. And it says in the book of Revelation chapter 9, and the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the smoke and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. So that star comes down, hits the earth, the dirt of the earth breaks open, that smoke comes up. That's what darkens it. And it says, smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke, check this out, guys, locust upon the earth. And upon them was given power as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men who did not have the seal of God on their foreheads. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he strikes a man. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle. And he explained this to me. Horses represent flesh, guys, and walking in your flesh. And on their heads were given crowns like gold, because they took the crowns from the righteous by getting them into sin. And their faces were as the faces of men. And that's, they took the image of man. And the image of man was marred, you know. They took their image, because we were made in the image of God and holy, and they took that from them. already, you know, and get them in sin. And they have the hair as the hair of women because they took their glory, because the women's hairs for their glory, they took the glory from them by getting them to exchange their crown or whatever they had. And it's metaphorical. They didn't literally give over, you know, like a physical crown, but this is metaphorical. But I think that's really how their locusts are going to look, but they're made to look like that metaphorically. And they have the hair as the hair of women. Their teeth were as the teeth of lions, and like the lion that roars, you know, of Satan walking about seeking whom who devour. They devour their brother with their tongue, you know, and the words they speak, and fighting against them for their message, and maybe calling them out on repentance. And not because we're doing it out of hatred, but to try to just make sure they're right when they die, you know, so they were attacking them. But those teeth have to do with that. And let me just stay with me, guys, because this really is going somewhere. And they had breastplates, as it were, breastplates of iron, and it talks about the iron rule of Rome. You see it related to Rome and the fall of Roman Empire, and you see that rising of that phoenix coming out of the abyss. You know, that's like the rise of the Antichrist, and this spirit you're about to see. The sound of their wings was like the sound of chariots and many horses running to battle. See, that there you go. That's in the days of Egypt. Those chariots running after the people of God. But these are something else. These are people of God that are not ready. They're running after. They had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails. And you see this movie called The Scorpion King, and he happens to do related to Egypt, and that's very telling, guys, because they do prophetic stuff like that in the movies, Hollywood, satanic. And their power was to hurt men 5 months, and they had a king over them, which is an angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue he has his name Apollyon. One woe is past, behold, there come 2 woes after. And this is the truth of this. That's the first of how many woes, guys? It says 2 more woes after. That's the first of 3 woes. 3 days of darkness, that's the first woe. Second woe is after the 2 witnesses are killed, they go up, and you see that earthquake, and it tells you after that the 2 witnesses go up, the second woe is past. The third woe, fall of Babylon, that part's a little bit of a mystery, but those 2 you get for sure, guys. That Abaddon is the destroyer of the Gentiles, basically the destroyer of the other nations, because you guys who believe in Yeshua, we're told in the New Testament, you are Israel spiritually. You're grafted into one of the 2 olive trees. You're grafted into Israel. It's not a mystery about these things if you read them, guys. And the 9th plague, you go back and you read the 9th plague of Moses, 3 days of darkness. 9th, is there any wonder, guys, that it's the 9th chapter of the book of Revelation? These are written prophetically, you know, to warn us, to get us our attention, guys. And after I did, mind you, from March all the way to October, I'm preparing for these judgments. I have this dream in March asking about Corona. I'm told October 6th, October 22nd. I'm sorry, October 27th to prophesy. That's 22 days of prophecy on the 10th month, 10:22. I wake up and I read Exodus 10:22. I'm already told about 3 days of darkness it's going to be. And it says, you know, what do you call it? It says, Exodus 10:22, it says, Moses lifted up a staff, there was 3 days of darkness. I find out, like I said, get cast in the belly of the well of Jonah. I see locusts on the TV. I go back and read this stuff, and it fits together. You know, the book of Amos says he'll darken the sun at noon. That's what you see happening. You see the sun darkening. He just gave he's given even people dreams of 3 days of darkness and locusts coming out of the pit. They still haven't figured it out. It's Revelation 9, guys. These are people that don't even know about Revelation 9. They don't think. They believe in this 3 days of darkness. They don't know that's the start of the tribulation, but that is. God's going to give people a clear marker when the tribulation begins. After those 3 days of darkness are over, Yeshua told me to my face, you know, he was talking to me about my identity as Elijah, this person he's called and everything, because I can explain that before, you know, in a second, but 1,260 days of prophecy. I prophesied from my book of Harvest. I don't know why, but in the month of Tishri, or I said something when I wrote it in there, that in the month of September, God was going to do something. I didn't know why. I thought it was maybe for a future year or something, because I was going to be prophesying October. But God actually did on that same day I prophesied. He gave me a vision, and that's the first time I actually saw the star coming down, proving it was the 3 days of darkness. I saw the star come down. I saw it hit. I saw, just swallow up the people in darkness, and it bring darkness. And God told me in the dream, September 27th, he told me, and mind you, I still have a month ahead of time to preach. This was a month before I was going to preach for 22 days. So it's getting closer and closer to me preaching. And he said, in the month of June, everything will change. And I was thinking, wait, that's weird. Why am I here in June again? If the 3 days of darkness are going to happen in October, why is he saying June everything changes? I was like, wait. He gave me a sign of the 3 days of darkness, of the Sahara dust cloud. When did that happen? That was June. That was June 22nd when I heard that report. In the dream, when I see the star coming down and it hits, when I do see it coming down and it hits, I was in the 1408 hotel room, a movie about a guy who goes into haunted hotel. It's a satanic movie. Well, I wake up and think about it. June 22, Sahara dust cloud. I later on have this dream. I don't even pay attention to June because I'm focused on October, but I'm just stuffing it in my mind that I got a sign of the Sahara dust cloud for 3 days of darkness. It just happened to be in June for some reason, I'm thinking. It happened on June 22nd. I forgot about that. I went back and looked that up later. But anyways, in the dream, when I see it come down, he tells me June, everything changes. And I'm in 1408 hotel room. I'm about to reveal this, guys. I wake up and I say, June what? You told me June what? And I'm looking on the calendar, guys. And they have these automatic calendars where you can switch the day or whatever. But when I asked God when I was before that calendar, God, what time? June what? What? All of a sudden the day shifted by itself. I didn't even move it. I'm not playing with you guys. It just clicked down all the way to the 22nd. Like a finger pushed it. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. 6:22. And I was like, wait. I'm preaching. I was like, wait, I'm about to preach next month from 6:22 according to what God showed me in that dream in March. He gave me those dates, October 6th to October 27th. October 22nd is my second day of prophecy. 6:22. First day of prophecy, end day of prophecy. 22 days. 6:22. And I was like, that's crazy. And I'm like, wait. And I said, he said June in the dream because now I know the 6 represents June. The first day of my preaching, I figured out it had something to do with something in the month of June. That's the 6th month. And so what happened was I looked up, I was like, when did that Sahara dust cloud happen? Because I'm looking at this date right now, June 22. And I'm thinking 2027 something. Even though I was thinking the 3 days of darkness is going to be now, I was still thinking the 2 witnesses are going to be preaching later. Because he's handing me this stuff. I'm not going after it. He's handing it to me, guys. All I'm doing is just praying the Psalms of David every day. And he's just pouring out his spirit on me. And so, 6:22, I'm thinking 2027. Maybe these 2 witnesses are preaching. I go back and look at that Sahara dust cloud. And guess what day it fell on, that it came on? It was June 22nd. June 22nd. Now remember, September 27th, that dream I had when he said, June, everything changes after I saw the star crush down and darkness come up. In the dream, I was in 1408. I was like, wait. So I'm thinking about June 22nd, 2027, based on all that stuff that he told me. I'm thinking that based on what he's showing me. June 22nd, 2027. I was like, let me see if God has given me a sign. 1408. When was the movie released in? And guess when it was released, guys, after I woke up? Guess what it was? June 22nd, 2007. So here I am thinking about June 22nd, 2027. And based on the dream he gives me, June, everything changes. And he's already given me the 27, the number. But he pointed me out to go look at those days he gave me to preach, and said all those days are a prophecy. Preaching 6, preaching for 22 days, 22, and 22 days on the 27th. So 6, 22, 27. That's literally a prophecy date for something else. If he does this, that would be what it was. The whole time I was preaching from the book of Harvest, I was prophesying for a time to come, not knowing God was going to withhold judgment, because it does say when he sends Elijah the prophet, he says, I'll send him so he'll turn the hearts of the fathers to the children to the fathers. Otherwise, I'll strike the earth with a plague. So it seems to suggest that Jonah is, I should say, this Elijah guy is supposed to preach so we can get more time. He says, I'll send you before that day. And so they talk about this guy, Elijah, preaching in tribulation with 2 witnesses, or he's one of the 2 witnesses. They talk about all these kind of things, guys. But it says he'll send him before the day of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And so it would make sense God sent me for this before. And he told me to my face I was this Elijah character. And he said, you're my Elijah. Don't fear, Sean. Don't fear them. They're not going to all receive you. But I'm telling you, now that you know who you are, I want you to buckle down, son. I want you to be stable. You need to finish this stuff. Because there are a lot of people depending on you to, get these prophecies. They need food. Because during that time, he said, when that darkness happens, people are going to be so devastated that go into that darkness that are, if they're not ready, if they don't have their lamps prepared, if they don't have light that day, then they will be tormented by that outer darkness, because it's a darkness that can be felt. And he let me feel it 2 seconds to try to tell me how serious it was for the sake of them, to warn them and everything. And I couldn't stand it 2 seconds. I asked him to take it away from me. It's half of what hell is, guys. So people will be so devastated during that time, guys. Your preachers that are preaching to you now will stop preaching to you that go into that darkness. Most of them, I hate to say it, Yeshua told me most of them will be going into that darkness that are not ready. Because they won't, not because he's predestining it, because they will have not prepared for it like he told them to. He told them to get oil and everything. And so they will say, I'm devastated. I need to save myself. I need to work on myself. I can't preach to you right now. I got to get away and I got to examine my life, because they're going to be so shell-shocked, so to speak, guys. So that's going to be the famine. Remember the famine of Joseph. He called me by the name of Joseph after I felt this thing filled. He told me not to shave. And then after the 3 days of darkness fell, then he told me to shave. And I thought, what was that? I found out that after Joseph was taken out of prison, he was told to shave, and he was brought before the king, and he was given a prophetic thing of 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. And here I am after feeling like this filled. I feel, it was orchestrated perfectly from God, perfect timing. I don't know how he got me where I was, guys, because I was struggling, and how he just moved, his spirit just touched me in such a way that moved me to get out of my sin. And then to do those judgments, it was perfect timing. And what I found out, that 227, I found out the numbers of my name even added up to 227 after because I'm preaching on the 22nd day of the 27th prophecy, 227. And like I said, all these things he's given me, I look up the numbers of my name, 227. I couldn't have done that, guys. My first and middle name, I didn't really know it. It means God is gracious, gift of God, And 227 also says, behold, I'm here. That's a quote that says, tell them I'm here. Or, behold, he's here. That's what it says. Behold, he's here. And it said, Elijah, tell them Elijah's here. It says that in the Bible. And he told me this stuff. I went back and looked at it and proved it to be true, I found out Yeshua preached from 27 AD to 30 AD. And so the sign of the 3 days of darkness from the 27th, which did plop, into the 30th of October, or if he doesn't stop it, it would be 2027 to 2030 we would have to preach. Why would he be telling us this ahead of time? Well, he told Moses before he did the 3 days of darkness. I know he delayed this thing with judgment with Jonah, but he gave them 40 years. I'll actually be 40 years old, guys, in 2027. I counted. That was another thing. I did the judgments when I was 33, the time Yeshua was when he was crucified. I suffered a kind of death after that not happening. That 3 days of death, my own death, not happening. I mean, it was tragic for me, but I found out that 227, what it represented. If God does do this, what do you call it? Jonah the prophet, or not Jonah, I'm sorry, Joseph, when he was betrayed into Egypt of his brothers, all the way up until the 7 years of plenty were over that he got. That's exactly 22 years from when he was betrayed into Egypt all the way to the time he stored up for the 7 years of plenty. That's 22 years altogether. Plus the 7 year famine is 7. 227. So that 227 first came from Joseph, guys. I didn't know that happened. So here I am finding out the numbers of my name mean 227. I'm given the ministry of Joseph. I look up his ministry and stuff after I'm told to store up 7 years of words of God up until that time. So I got saved in 2005, guys. Check this out. I got saved in 2005. From all the way into there, all the way to 2027 is exactly 22 years, just like Joseph. From the time my betrayal, you could say, would have started when the time I was saved, because I was hated for the sake of getting saved. My brother said, "What have you done to that boy?" To my mom, you know. And I was hated by even Christians. They didn't want to listen to me. That was 2005, all the way to told to store up plenty, you know, starting the end of 2020. All the way to 2027 would have been 22 years. And if we have that 7-year tribulation, then that'll be 227. It's a perfect mirror of Joseph's ministry. I was missing those. God was guiding me a little as he went. I found out 227 also means, I believe if you type in Babylon is fallen, or something like that, it actually adds up to 227. Babylon is fallen. It adds up to 227. My sister Alicia, I found out she represented the Church of God as Elisha, that Elijah anointed Elisha. I remember a dream she having telling me, you may think this is weird, guys, but I was laying on a bed once when I was younger, and she tells me I had a dream, and in the dream, I know this sounds weird, but me and her were watching the Freddy Krueger movie back then. We were watching those horrible movies, and she saw it, and I took that mask off, and I told her, "Hey, it's me," and it's like I was an older version of me talking to her in the past, and she, and she, as a little girl, she woke me up on my bed and told me, and I was laying there, and I was like, leave me alone, because my mom was saying, Alicia's saying she had a dream about you had a Freddy mask on. I was like, I don't care about that, leave me alone, I'm trying to sleep. The weird thing is, later on, I end up actually dreaming I'm talking to a little girl version of my sister, like years later. This is what is creepy, guys. God controls time. I heard he did this to another prophet, guys, before. I'm in the dream trying to tell my sister, my younger sister, I'm this Elijah person, but for some reason I have this mask on and I pull it off, and I try to tell her this, and she's smiling. I'm like I'm Sean. I'm your brother. You know, this is who I am. And I was basically trying to encourage her, don't be sad, you know, God's got a future for us. And then the scene changes in the dream that I'm in when I'm telling her this. And I see myself as a little boy telling her, me being woke up on the bed, my mom saying, Alicia's saying she just had a dream of you saying, you know, you had a Freddy mask on. She couldn't remember the Elijah part, but she said that. And I was like, no, leave me alone. I was like, whoa, I remember being in that position. So God literally controlled time. And another prophet said he was sent back to the time of John Paul Jackson. I mean, people may not believe this, but God is outside of time, so he controls it. And so he's taken prophets into the future. He can go backward or forward because he created time. He was trying to get me to not wear that fear. That Freddy represented that fear identity. I was watching those movies. I was so full of fear. He was saying, Sean, take off that mask. You'll see the true version of yourself. And I was also struggling with fear later on in my life, even though after being told I was this Elijah person. And so I took off that mask, you know. I was like, why is a mask on me? That's all I was thinking. I'm trying to talk to my sister Alicia. Why is there a mask on me? Well, God orchestrated that, you know. He knew I would have a desire, you know, to try to. I'm a child of faith, guys. I don't think God is limited to doing anything. And I heard, like I said, John Paul Jackson say he met with King David, and he was speaking Hebrew words. He could never speak a different language, and he was told by God to go down the street of Israel and say David is king. And he went down that street and say, David's going to be king. Some people said, of course he will. Some people said, no, Saul will. And he was walking down the street. He said it smelled like urine. It was nasty. But he went on tour on Israel later on, 2 weeks later or whatever. And he was standing in the exact same place he saw in the dream. It looked just like it. He'd never been there before. So it proved God controlled time. And he sent him back there. And when he saw David, he had red hair. And I believe him because he didn't know this part, this other guy who had been to heaven and died. Percy Calais, he didn't know him. And Percy Calais described David as a man with red hair, a little guy. He said the guy was little, John Paul Jackson. He had these real small hands. And he said, you know, he looked like almost like a model. Like David had very good features. It says good looking. But David said to the prophet, he said, I know who you are. And we'll meet again. And then the guy was translated back to his location, you know. Where he was in his bed. He said he was awake, not asleep. God translocated him. And I know this is big for people, but God did this stuff in the Bible. He put Philip, took him somewhere else. Took him to other places. And so, guys, God is orchestrating all this, everything in this book, guys. It's not accident. God has dates. He sets things. And this isn't the date of the rapture or anything like that, and the rapture's not happening. He said this is a test we got to go through before we can get to heaven, because if he let the rapture happen then, guys, it'd be the same as the 3 days of darkness. The same way the people were caught in the 3 days of darkness, they would be left behind. He doesn't want them to be left behind, so that's like a wake-up call. That's like a test. And I just tried to share with you all this stuff, guys, so you can get a pretty good understanding of where this 3 days of darkness stuff is coming from. It's God planned this out. I did not plan any of this stuff out. I was not looking at that stuff. I wasn't believing in it. When he gave me the prophecy, I said, you have to show me, guys. But you see the vision of yourself in the belly of a well, and you wake up, you realize it's the belly of the well, Jonah. You see a vision like that prophets have seen. It'll wake you up, I guarantee it, guys. The weird thing is that hotel room, guess what it's called, guys? It's called the Dolphin. The hotel room, I was in the dream where I got pulled out of it by an angel, and it was going down, like a building going down. I was thinking of 2027. I was thinking of, it said June, everything changes. We pulled me out of that building, and I did see that star come down and hit, covered up everything in darkness. And what representative, if I was in that building of sin, I would have been caught in that darkness, and I just narrowly escaped it. So that building of that 1408 hotel room from the movie 1408, Stephen King's 1408, it's actually called the Dolphin. And so getting the belly of the well of Jonah, a dolphin. They even have a picture of a person sailing out to sea, and the flood comes out of the painting because it's like he's hallucinating. These spirits are tormenting him. It comes out and it floods it. And it floods the entire hotel room like the flood, the days of the flood, and the belly of the well of Jonah being cast overboard. Guess what the dolphin adds up to also, guys? 666. It's the name of the hotel room. It adds up to 666. Our language is kind of, there's kind of some curse words in it. I think the original language of the dolphin, a beautiful creature of the Lord, was not supposed to add up to 666. I think it's just the way we got our language from. It comes out of Babylon. And, Mike Enslin, the main character in the movie, guess what his name adds up to? 666. Mike also means, like, who is like God. It's blasphemy. And, he says, if I have to go down, I'm taking you all with me. Think about that. That's straight out would come out of the devil's mouth. You know, if I have to go down, I'm taking you with me. That's what he says to the place he crashes. God took me out of that building. I could hear demonic pig noises as that building was going down. They sounded so angry that they were supposed to kill me. And I saw a girl with a loaded gun and a platter trying to get me. It represented fornication. I said no, and I said, get me out of here. And my angel fearless just flew me out of there before the building went down. I woke up and I researched that hotel room. That movie's based on true events of a haunted hotel, and I believe it was a woman that actually killed herself or something like that in one of those hotel rooms. So God was actually showing me stuff. I believe I've covered everything, guys. There's a lot of stuff I could cover. God gave other signs, like I told you. I was thinking April. April is the second month of the Hebrew, so 2/27. I was thinking, give me a sign, another sign of this locust stuff. Another sign of this beast coming out of the bottomless pit, or the false prophet. And I hear news of Israel. I hear it, even though it did happen days before, I hear it only being reported on the 27th of 2/27, April 27th, of locusts attacking Israel. And then you see them, looks like this guy, they're making him like this rabbi, like he's out to be the Messiah. And I know people say that's not true, but they've already said they had meetings with the Messiah. They've already said that. So it's not too hard to believe. So whether they say they believe it or not, guys, whether they say it's not true or not, I'm sorry. They already said they've been meeting with the Messiah. What are we supposed to believe, guys? But either way, it's a sign in itself. It's a sign doesn't need to be the actual event. It's just something that is similar to that, guys. And so that guy came out of nowhere as a rabbi. He just came out of nowhere. He was 33 years old, that same age Yeshua was when he was crucified, basically. But anyways, that's not an accident that all that stuff happened. That's not an accident, guys. You can also look up other things to date. Judy, I was getting dates about Wizard of Oz, Judy Garland, about witchcraft, having to do with Wizard of Oz is a witchcraft movie, by the way, you know. Judy Garland, she was actually born on June 22nd, and I think somebody that's in Stephen King's novel who wrote 1408, a big person that he promoted and throughout his books was born June 22nd. I think it was even 1927. And so you have those numbers again. And Satan has been using these because he knows God has a book of numbers, guys, in the Bible. God has prophetic numbers. I'm not like angel numbers. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about numbers that give him glory, you know, that point to him. You know, you see Psalm 22, he says, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? That's the 3 days of darkness. So you see that number 22 again, because that's 3 hours of darkness on the cross when he said later on, after Psalm 22, Yeshua went on to fulfill that. He said, my God, why you forsaken me? And then it says, behold, he's calling for Elias. I actually saw him calling me in the dream and calling my name, and it's weird, like he's outside of time, you know. He already saw this day what happened, calling me. And on the cross, you know. And he said, I've surnamed you in the Bible, though you have not known me, I've surnamed you. And all this stuff, and it said in the Elijah codes, it said he will be a twin. I'm a twin person. I mean, he literally told me this stuff, guys. I'm supposed to build prophets. I'm trying to build prophets, guys, because I want you to do judgments with me. You need to set yourselves apart, guys, because we need judges in Israel who would judge the people of God back to him and help them to do what they need to do to get back to him. And sometimes you have to be the bad guy. You don't think Jeremiah and Ezekiel and all those prophets were hated by their people? Of course they were, guys. They were only recognized after they were dead and everything, basically. So you will be hated if you're for the sake of God. But guys, I'm trying to train you so you can use your YouTube channels, because I want you to be the ones helping me to judge, because I'm supposed to build the two witnesses. I'm the firstborn, that is because I've set myself apart. Just anybody could have come to him. He foresaw the person that would have totally set themselves apart to him. I want you guys to be doing the judgments. You're going to be with me the same. You know, God does have leaders and he has things, but think of the team of the Avengers, guys. You had, even though these are demons, I learned later, but still the principle. You had the Iron Man, you had Captain America, you had all those characters, and even though Captain America was a leader of the group, you still have, even though he's a leader of the group, there's still, you see how their equality, you know, they could stand on their own anyways, you know, each of them. I'm trying to build people like that. Although that I am the leader of this, I want you guys to be right along with me. And that goes to the, you know, and they're part of that. They're 444,000 and broken into two groups and preaching on, you know, death of the flesh and then resurrection. You know, one is for the dying in Christ, one is for the resurrected. The death speaks of not sinning. The resurrected speaks of only doing deeds of righteousness. And I want you to help me, guys, because the world is going to need you at that time. They're going to need somebody because there's going to be a great famine of the word of God. Remember when they had to go to Joseph, and Joseph was the only one that had the grain because nobody stored up that grain. That's how it's going to be on that day for the people that are in darkness, because they're going to stop preaching to you guys, because they're going to say, I got to reassess my own life. They're going to stop preaching. They'll be so shell-shocked of going into that darkness. They won't be able to preach. They'll be silent. You won't be able to find all these churches like you will. They'll fall silent. God said he's going to silence a lot of them, but he doesn't. So guys, that's why I want you guys to be ready for that. I want you to be judging so you can be feeding them. They're going to need food, guys. This is why I'm working. God's given me the 7 years of writing to do, 7 years of lots of work, so I can have 3.5 years of consistent judging and feeding them with things like the book of Isaiah is both entertaining and it feeds you. To just keep their faith level up, keep them hopeful, at the same time get the fear of the Lord in them, get the fire of the Lord in them. So that's why I need you guys to set yourselves apart. That's what God is saying. I set you here, guys, to be my witnesses. I set you here, but you got to set yourselves apart from the world, guys. But I love you. I'm going to let you go. I just wanted to share that stuff with you. Please pray about it. Take it to the Lord. Ask him yourself. He's giving dreams and visions. If you draw close to him, ask him about Revelation 9 and 3 days of darkness. Ask him about this stuff, guys. I dare you to ask him. Seek him for it. He will show you awesome stuff. I want you to, guys, he's trying to build prophets, guys, because people need to be fed. They're not getting fed in the churches right now like they need to be. But I love you guys. I'm going to let you go. I was just trying to pour out the Lord's heart, pour out my heart on you so you can get full of the Spirit. You can move toward what he wants you to move toward. But I love you guys. I'm going to let you go. Until next time. Shalom.